Hello and welcome to the director's cut of Sicarius. As of recording this, we are very much close to the 1 year anniversary of Sicarius coming out, and it's also the start of the Mythic universe at this point. Sicarius, I believe, is a great starting point for Mythic. It's not too much and it's not too little. So right here, I chose the song Rockstar as a way to symbolize that Sicarius has chosen this life of being a rock star, quote unquote, instead of being the hero that he desperately needs to be, not only just for himself, but for the fate of the world, really. I think it definitely fits with his character as well, at least in the place that he's in at the moment. And a lot of this was just on chance, really. If Sicarius hadn't been here, or Jordan, he just wouldn't have become Sicarius whatsoever. Maybe the whole universe depended on Death Grip being a thing at all. It's definitely something I want to explore, maybe in a different kind of series of, if Death Grip never showed up to that stroke club that night and basically told Sicarius what was about to happen. And right up here we get introduced to Jordan Evans' assistant, known as Kelly. I believe their relationship is something more than just him being his assistant. Kelly and Jordan obviously work together a lot more closely, as most assistants do anyway. But she constantly tries to be more than just an assistant and to be basically his best friend, because this takes place after Demon Cowboy and American Eagle had split, and Jordan was basically all left alone, and he had no one really to turn to. So Kelly, seeing that, became a more important figure in his life. In a future scene coming up after Jordan and Kelly's talk, Sicarius gets a flashback of him and Demon talking, and I think it also not only shows that who Demon is to Sicarius, but kind of the theme of this short or movie, that it's possible that killing people is a possible solution, at least in this universe. Me personally, I don't agree with that, and I find it way more interesting to film than rather just do it from my perspective. Some people truly believe that killing everybody or killing any bad guy is the right answer, and something I want to do with this character is to show that Sicarius, or
it's like a high school reunion.
The idea of killing people isn't always the solution, and we're going to explore a polar opposite to this idea with Demon Cowboy. The whole okay, so this is definitely going to make it into the movie due to time restraints and
maybe sometime later.
Just time. Kelly was supposed to come in for the final battle with a motorcycle and save Sicarius, but it just wasn't going to flow right. And
I know.
it's possible that we might do that in the future movie. It's just something I wanted to hint towards, and it obviously just didn't get filmed in time. But right here, the flashback happens, and obviously we get a little bit into it. Basically, what made them split. Basically, without getting into too much detail, because we want to expand on this further, we just don't think right now is a great time. But with what I can tell you is that their argument is what determines the future of this whole universe, and if that argument never happened, then things would have been completely different. And I think the whole argument that they have in the whole dispute is very, very important and impactful to the entire world. right here, Sicarius is currently waiting for Death Grip to walk out of the strip club and head towards another location. Sicarius is going to try and figure out where this person lives, or try to figure out if this is really a good idea to go ahead and, risk everything that he's worked towards since Demons and his splits. Fun fact about this is that this is all one shot. Since the strip club is so close to where they're actually going, there was no reason to necessarily cut it out. I just thought it was a cool, one shot thing. Originally, the license plate that just switched by was supposed to be a reference, but it just kind of slipped my mind whenever we were doing it. It was supposed to be a reference to a friend who tragically passed away, and we'll get more into that towards the end because his character pops up. It was supposed to be a reference to his favorite number, or the number that's on his gamer tag currently. But yeah, I really wanted to put that in there. It completely slipped my mind because we had other things going on. And you can hear in the background actually police sirens going off. That's because there was other people filming when me and someone else were filming this scene right here. They didn't necessarily need us, so we went ahead and filmed this while they were filming the other project. I think the other project at the time would either be Commie Fist or Black Knight or Joe Cage. But yeah, it's really great working with all of them. They definitely help out, and they expand on the universe a lot more than what we could. At least in those specific areas, we like to focus on either the really extra or the mythic-esque part of it, and or the nit and gritty with Sicarius and Demon Explorers, more of the mystical side of things, and characters such as Joe Cage and Commie Fist focus on other aspects that our characters can't really do, and vice versa. So it's a great balance between everybody, and I think that's what makes this whole project work. But yeah, they're definitely great people. I'll talk more about them in a bit, but as we're about to get into the scene with Death Grip, kind of showing more of basically how evil he is. This character, Death Grip, was actually voiced by Cameron Gardner. I believe this is his first time voice acting. There was another project he helped us work on, but that will have to be uploaded at some other point. It was a very improv thing and not really much of a script, but this was his first time voice acting with us or with the script, and I get compliments constantly about how good of an actor Cameron is, and we really hope to bring him back with other projects such as The New Guy and a new show we're working on. But yeah, we really hope he comes back for those. Fun fact about the scene is that it was filmed in about 20 or 30 seconds because they had just got done filming, and we went and they came in to help us real quick, and then we came to help them, or we went to go help them with something else.
For some reason, I owed them thousands of dollars. Are you serious? No, I'm not fucking
something I like about most Death Grip's a little design here is that most of the characters that surround him, we'll talk about his design in a bit, all kind of follow this yellow-esque clothing.
Have you ever seen Reverse?
I think that sticks out for this character because, well, his jacket's yellow and others are wearing yellow. But whenever you watch a Future Mythics thing and you see people with those kind of color bandanas, you'll think of Death Grip, and I think that's super interesting and fun to play around with in the future. Originally, the kid in this scene was supposed to be 16, but there was no real way of conveying that in the story without having potential canonical errors because the other body actors who were in that shot who were wearing masks were already in this, so it would have messed things up. And Sicarius is going back to Kelly, and he's kind of pondering if he should really do this, and he's kind of hoping someone would come in, and that person would be Kelly. Kelly is a really, really good voice actor. As the same with Cameron, we want to have her show up in future projects and in the new show we're working on, which in a few coming months we'll have more details on that show. And it's a really good show.
Yeah,
but that's not the point here. Kelly she's phenomenal. We are constantly trying to put her in other works with, say, Oreos and Muffins, or another channel we've been working with. But I think we're about to absorb them.
Okay. I've been heard about a man named Deathbird.
MK Studios is another studio we work with, and they're really, really great as well. As long as with Oreos and Muffins. But
I'm not done. So after
I think what's interesting here is that Kelly kind of like pushes the idea that Sisters had a long time ago, and with Demon Split, is that people are tired of losing loved ones due to
what's wrong with it.
Heroes just kind of doing what they think is right, and that is putting them in prison because, you know, heroes don't necessarily kill, and that kind of defeats the purpose of them. But obviously people like Kelly are tired of losing people, or in this case, Kelly talks to Sisters and how he's lost so many people due to people just breaking out of the prisons they're in and killing everybody. I also think it's important to have this dialogue here with American Eagle, or the subtle thing about it, with Sicarius not only moving from the past of being a generic hero, but also moving away from the idea of just being an American symbol, and to be kind of his own thing. The muscle car here, I forget off the top of my head, I believe it's called the forget what it's called, but the muscle car, it was heavily inspired by Mad Max, and just the idea of a vehicle connected to a character was also inspired by Batman, and I think that's just an iconic thing to have for a character, especially someone like Sicarius, who obviously, you know, needs more than just the mask that he wears. He needs like a lot more to emphasize that he's coming, so to say. You go death. That's what it was. Sorry about that. Just trying to remember what I knew it was death something, but kind of what the point I was emphasizing earlier is that he's no longer dealing with, you know, aliens who are confused as to where they are, but he's dealing with genuine monsters who will straight up just kill kids just because a heist or a job didn't go too well in their favor. And right here we get introduced to a really important character to Sicarius later on, and her name is Vesper. Vesper isn't really shown much here. I think I did a really good job of kind of teasing her. A really interesting thought I had with Vesper is that before meeting Sicarius, she just kind of emphasized that in her mind, all men are basically stupid, and that she just assumed that flirting with them would just kind of break them down easier, and she could get the job done a lot faster. But obviously we find out with this fight scene that Sicarius clearly isn't going to be tempted by some random girl that he finds in the abandoned warehouse. Funny enough about the fight scene here, the guy who did Cameron, who did the voice acting for Death Grip, actually helped me out with this. So thanks to him for that. Back to Vesper. She's very important and to a way because she's a lot younger. She's about 18, 19-ish. And Sisters is about 20 to about 25, but he's experienced a lot more than she has, and something I want to expand on is possibly Sisters taking her under his wing for a bit. She can't necessarily do it immediately here because she obviously doesn't know who Sisters is. Right here, originally she was supposed to, or in her mind, she was going to try and throw Sicarius in front of the train, but obviously that didn't work out because of Sicarius, not being totally stupid. But yeah, Vesper is someone I think is important, and I really just like the idea of Vesper, and she's one of my favorite characters to work around and work with. And right up here, we're about to get to the warehouse scene right here, where Death Grip is talking to a subordinate who kind of questions. He's just kind of like, why are you doing all this? And he kind of explains that the whole demon and eagle charade just kind of basically they would fight something and then they would just kind of leave, and this was kind of inspired by not only Vulture but Killmonger as well. I kind of merged the two when kind of coming up with this character. I don't really see that explored all too much. Of course, I wanted to take it a bit more deeper with the idea that these heroes just kind of leave people behind and not really think of the consequences of civilians just kind of getting basically left in the dust from all these battles that take place in the city, and victory is good, and they just kind of leave. So right here, we have a flashback to American Eagle and Anime Man. This is important because I personally think he remembers this to kind of really emphasize to Death Grip that this is American Eagle, and that when they do get into the fight later on, that he's definitely going to get his ass kicked, but he doesn't expect him to die. Or he doesn't expect himself to get killed. He just kind of assumes, oh, he's going to jail. But obviously we find out, and I'll get more into that later. I kind of want to talk about Death Grip's outfit a little bit. I think he definitely has one of the more unique looks to the entire Mythic cast. Of course, you have Sisters with the skull, and Vesper with hers, and Demons with his Mythic weapon and his iconic monster look. But something that, in my mind anyway, that Death Grip has is he's just a civilian who's fed up with basically the government and taking the hero side and not really doing a better job at helping the civilians who are just kind of in the background getting either killed or just straight up murdered. Or just losing their homes, and then they're homeless entirely. His jacket, his shirt, and pants and shoes are something you'd probably find in a mall or some other really kind of high-class place. And then the mask, it kind of reminds me of one of those post-apocalyptic stores you'd find. I know when I went on a trip to South Carolina, I found a mask kind of similar to the one of Death Grip's. And I just find that super interesting, and how easy it is to find a mask kind of like that. So I think it definitely echoes the idea of not only is Death Grip a civilian, but basically someone who ran through the trash. this fight scene,
Why are you doing this? This is not how this is supposed
when it gets to that point where Death Grip gets murdered by Sicarius, Sicarius just keeps wailing and wailing and wailing out of anger and frustration that Death Grip had just murdered a kid, in his eyes anyway. It's not really emphasized that he kills a kid, but he's just angry that he killed him, and he loses control when he finally kills Death Grip in a short time span here. But this death is not just sure it's a write-off, and Death Grip will most likely never come back, but the idea of his death echoed throughout the entire world, and how brutal it was, and that the government is just not necessarily caring, and that's for a whole nother reason. But to the eyes of the civilians, Death Grip kind of just won. He kind of proved the point that civilians are just going to keep getting hit by heroes no matter what. And another hero who reads about this and doesn't know necessarily the whole story, just that some dude just ran up and killed a gang lord, was just a kid and didn't know what he was doing. This character that we'll dive into deeper definitely knows about what just happened. This scene was actually filmed by another channel known as Oreos and Muffins, who's ran by Joe Macias. He is very, very talented. I'm very, very proud of what he's been doing. He's shown me a little bit of future mythic stuff, and Joe Cage is really, really good, and I hope whoever's watching this goes to their channel and watches Joe Cage. They're also working on a project with MK Studios with the Commie Fist, and so far from what I've seen, it's going to be a very, very interesting tale to tell for Mythic, and it'll be important as well as the other ones. We're about to get closer to the mid-credit scene. Is to show that Death Grip just wasn't, something Sicarius went and killed and then just went right back to his little office. He actually went out afterwards and started clearing out remnants of Death Grip's gang, and then found out about other gangs and PMCs and other crime organizations, and that'll spark up someone to come back to the States to kind of fix that solution or problem that Sicarius has created. And of course, we'll dive deeper into the sequel of Sicarius. Sicarius's kill count is wildly unknown according to the public in this universe, but the rough estimate is basically around 500 to 750, and that's just on finding the bodies alone. This after credit scene was just a random thing we did. We thought it was funny. It was mostly about the Harvey Weinstein thing. Of course, we changed it to a priest and whatnot. We thought we'd make light of the situation and kind of emphasizing that Sicarius doesn't like those kind of people. But that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for listening. Just one final thing I have to say. Continue watching the whole Mythic stuff. Joe Cage, Commie Fist. Other stuff I can't necessarily talk about. And yeah. I hope to see you guys in the next one. And Pro Fox, I definitely tried putting you in the credits, but I forgot. Alright. And see you guys later.